A quick introduction of something that I'm going to do on a build. Now, this here is the Rogal Dorn tank. Now, it's an Astra Militarum tank, and you know, I think it's got a lovely look to it. It's quite an interesting looking tank. I think one would call this a heavy tank for the Imperial Guard. Smaller than a Baneblade, which is its super heavy tank, and then you've got the Leman Russ, which is smaller than it. So overall, this is quite an interesting positioning, this one. It's right between the two. I'm looking at the kit so far. Now, I've not built one of these yet, so I am a bit behind, and I know people have issues with some things on this, such as there's no bottom plate, which you can get hold of. Basically, if you've got a 3D printer, there's lots of people who've designed them to print off, or you can usually buy 3D printed ones. So I'm not going to go down that path because I want to build it as it is. I'm not sure how many weapon options it's got, so I'm going to be having a look at that as I go through. I doubt I'm going to be magnetising them because this is the first one I've ever built, and I don't tend to magnetise things if I've never built them before. But I'm looking forward to this. I think, personally for me, I like the look of this. I think it's got kind of just the right stylings. So here we go for what is going to prove to be quite a big build of this Rogal Dorn Battle Tank. Okay, so time to get myself up and running on this absolute beast. So I'm trying to keep my video so that I can fit one sprue in at a time perfectly. I don't think I actually start with that sprue, but that was just me checking. I think actually what we start with, by the look of it, is over here, and we're going to actually start building sides of each track. So it's going to be quite a big job. There's no other way to put this. It looks gorgeous. I'm going to try and do the whole thing in a single video, but we'll see how it goes, see how long it's taken. Now, to begin with, we need a number 2, which is this part here. Now, straight away, I'm finding the look of this quite interesting because obviously we've got, this looks like the side of it, and it looks, as far as I understand it, that you can build this in 2 different ways. You can build it with the side armour on or the side armour off. I don't know if that's official, but I've seen people do that. Right, now we need 72. Let me see if this is on this sprue, because obviously I don't want to be jumping around sprues if I don't have to be. Yeah, it looks like I'm going over to a different sprue now. So put that out the way and go get this one. Right, so we're looking for a thing called a number 72. I'm hoping it's on this one. If not, I'll be all over the cell. Well, the good thing is number 46 is here, which is this little bit. Trying my best to make sure that I stay centre on camera here. I've got a few bad habits at the moment of drifting off camera. I made a long 2-hour video only to realise that I was completely off camera, and I was devastated because I'd spent ages painting something for 2 hours. 72. I mean, I got the painting done, but as you might guess, it's kind of frustrating to be wanting to do a tutorial video, or at least a video showing what I like to do, only to get to the end of it and realise you've cocked up. So I'm trying my best to make sure that I'm keeping focus in the right place today. Okay, so we've got these 2 parts over here, and then we get number 40 out. Let's just check. Now, which one is number 40? This side is number 40. I'm hoping it's one of these kits where things are in an intuitive place, but that's not always the case with some of these kits. Right. Okay, now I've got to go through the process of tidying all this up. trying to make sure that this is nice and flat and cleaned up, because if this is a point where something attaches to, like a track, not nice and clean, it'll kind of pop upwards. There's a mould line along here. Okay, so there's no guarantee that anyone's ever going to see this mould line because it looks like it's an internal part, but I'm concerned that if I don't tidy it up, I'll end up seeing it without realising that, you know, like, so it'll be visible maybe from one particular direction, so I'm kind of conscious about cleaning it off. So let me just, so this is going to go this side. Again, we've got a bit of a mould line running right the way along the wheel. Now, not the worst place that you can have. Oh, not the worst place that you can have a join. Think about a mould line on a tool is on a curve is you can tend to slide your tool along it quite easily. I end up with so much dirt all over the place when I'm doing a model. I regularly have a clean out of my office, like really deep clean of it, because it's just guaranteed to be full of dirt, you know, like shavings everywhere. So even if I clean up immediately after I do a job, I still find that little bits will remain, and then before I know it, I'll look behind things in about a month's time and it'll be little shavings have somehow got behind things that are nowhere near my art station, basically, near my, what's it called, journeyman's desk, draftsman's table. Why am I saying journeyman's desk? I don't know what I'm on about there. Draftsman's table. Right. See there. Got all these horrible shavings everywhere. I'll just push them out the way for a second. Right. So now it's time to get these parts on. So I'm going to dry fit them first because they look like they're going to be interesting with their positionings. So this one goes this side and this one goes this side. we go. So that slides on just right. Just feeling the positioning of this actually. Making sure that it's nice and smooth on. It does feel like it has a little lip outwards there. Quite unusual. It doesn't feel right, but it won't go any further in either. Strange, but we'll see. Yeah, it feels like it yeah, they are. They've got like slight rises. Okay, just making sure. It's quite an interesting feeling, that's all. Now, these two parts are going to slot together. Nice and tight by the look of it. Okay, let's glue the key areas here. So this is definitely one. But let me just double check as well. I don't really want to put too much glue. I never like putting too much glue, particularly around wheeled areas, because then they can squirt out. But if you don't, sometimes they can split. There we go. That's good enough. Okay. Right, now tracks. I don't like putting tracks on straight away. It bothers me because what happens is if you glue tracks on as part of the process, you're going to find it harder to paint. So I'm going to make this very, very clear. I will not be putting these tracks on. What I am going to do, however, is I'm going to kind of get the right ones out. So let me find here. And I'm going to show you a technique about how I like to position things. So we'll go over, I'll tell you which ones I'm getting out. Here's number 17. Done it far too often and I hate it. I can't paint tracks while they're on. Mold line on this as well, which I'm not happy about. Right, so 17 looks like, let me get this right, pops in here. Okay, so 17 goes there. Not gonna do it. I'm not gonna glue them. Refuse. I can't do it. I can't glue things like this on. 18, let me find 18. Oh, I got like kind of replicated numbers as well, which is useful because that makes it easier when you're doing both sides of the track, you know, kind of what's what. So let's find this number 16. I'm reading, should have put my glasses on for this one. Over here. Okay, now this heads over this side. Oh, hang on. Just realised that one's at bottom. That one's on back to front. The two teeth go out that way, so then this one goes here, like this, and then a number 20, which looks like a long one. Let's find this one here. I've got some bits of Vansar gangers ready for this as well, because this is going to be part of my Necromundan 11th armoured company. Yeah, I had a massive tank army at one point. I mean, maybe not massive as compared to some people's collections that you see now that they've been building up for decades, but it was big. It had like it was, along with having, you know, quite a few Leman Russ battle tanks, it had loads of chimeras because it was an armoured company, but it had a huge mechanised infantry component. All part of the 11th, as I called them, the Necromundan 11th. Now, at the time, I always wanted to use Vansar gangers, but it wasn't really practical because they were metal and they didn't really have many weapon options. Right, let me just pop this, show where this one goes. So this one goes around the back here and on like that. Okay. Then you need a 23. Yes, so I'm going to remake it, except I'm going to remake it, there's 23 up here, this time using actual Necromunda troops. So I want the Necromundan 11 to be purely Vansar, because I want it to feel like it's a well-equipped unit. But I also kind of feel like it would be quite cool, maybe not part of the Necromundan 11th, maybe it's like a penal colony company, have a bunch of other gang on there. If not penal, then some Necromundan gangs make fantastic elite veteran guardsman squads. So, you know, you can equip them with particular weapons and they'll quite happily fully be declared. So my plan with that one is looking at, let me put this on. I hope I pulled the right one out here, because this does not feel like very long. Oh, you know what? I was not paying attention. That is a number 17. This is the 23. They're right next to each other. I should have seen that. I was too busy talking. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to have these as the Necromundan 11th. I'm also going to do their colour scheme that I did at the time, which was actually a shadow grey. Now, the paint doesn't exist anymore from Games Workshop, but I spent a while looking around and I did come across one that I'm really happy with. Called Pastel Blue by Vallejo paint. I assume the J's pronounced with a sound. And I do apologise if you're a Spanish speaker and I've, you know, tried to do a very bad attempt at a Spanish J. And second of all, assume that it's a Spanish J in the first place and done it wrong. Okay, so this one, if I prise it up, This one pops across here. Now let me get the positioning right on these, so let me check them. Yeah, no, it looks like a small little bit goes there later on. Okay. Now I need a 24, which this one over here. I'm going to have to build the Baneblade again one day. I'm going to have to decide what I'm going to name my tanks. Because my super heavy Baneblade that I used to have for my Necromundan XI, I'm not going to hide it, it was called the Bismarck. I liked to name my tanks back then after, well, German warships of the World War era, which, you know, in the current climate may not go down well. I don't personally see a problem with naming things, you know, like that, because, you know, in the far future, you know, you don't know, a group like the Imperium, well, you know, they would probably hear the name, even if they, you know, if they've got a record of the names of these things, they probably wouldn't have the historical context to understand why they're controversial. Anyway, but I think I like the idea of calling my super heavy the Bismarck again. There we go, this one goes underneath like this, just purely because I think it sounds nice for a super heavy to have. But yeah, you know, share your thoughts on that one if you fancy it. As I said, okay, 25, so I need one of these little 25s from over here. This one looks like it goes there. Well, at least for this purpose, it's not having, like, they're not falling off all over the place. Okay, number 9 for the top part. So I need to do number 9. Ooh, it's over here. Yeah, I have to admit, if you ever get hold of an older Lehman Russ battle tank, the old Lehman Russ battle tanks, I really like them. It's not that I dislike the new one, because I don't. I love that one as well. But one thing that I really like about the old Lehman Russ battle tanks is they have this really chunky hull cannon, like really chunky. Excuse me, I think I'm catching a cold here. Yeah, number 9's going to pop on top here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to number these in a second. So turn off my camera and just number them so I don't lose what's what. And the number 7, yeah, they have like a very big, heavy duty turret on them. A negative thing about the old Lehman Russes is you have to basically buy either from Forge World alternative cannons, so you literally were stuck with the battle cannon of the Lehman Russ was literally just the battle cannon, you know, and there wasn't really much of an alternative. Right, number 7 pops itself under here. You can see they're holding on for now. I want to paint them separately because it'll look so much better. Okay. And moving on from there, 2 more number 9s for this side. Oh dear, I do seem to be developing a sniffle. I don't think it's a cold, I think it's because I've been cleaning up today and I suffer from a bit of an allergy, unfortunately. Right. That suffer from dust allergies, so it's not exactly nice. Yeah, so whenever I clean, I can end up struggling to breathe. Silly of me. Anyway, the other tank, anyway, going back onto topic, the other tank that I would like to get hold of, again, is the Salamanders, command vehicles for the Imperial Guard. You can only get them at Forge World, and I always wanted them in proper plastic, and I'm always disappointed that they never get them. But basically, they were an open-top command vehicle for the Imperial Guard, and they were just amazing little things. You know, they didn't have much in the way of weaponry. They were using a Chimera chassis, but everything about it just screamed perfection as a command vehicle. And I wish that they would re-release it in plastic and maybe come up with some alternative designs for it and alternative models. Right, so that is track number 1 done. So, as I said, I have no intention whatsoever of gluing those on. Don't want to do that because I'm going to leave it and I'm going to paint them separate, and I advise you do the same, and you can just glue them back on later on. So, looks like then we're heading on to the next track now. So, starting off, let's just check here. Got to build the next track up now. So, just having a quick look, actually, it's quite interesting. Looking at the instructions, yeah, there we go. Oh, let me just check here, yeah. So we've got 33. Cool. Now, that's 33. Oh yeah. Over to the other sprue now for the other parts. So we've got 75 here. We want the two little sides, so 67 and 47 are the kind of little panels. There we go, so 67. And then where's the other one? 47 over here. Start cleaning these up now. It's not leveling out then, that. I think when I do restart my Necromundan 11th Armoured Company, I think less Chimeras, more Tauroxes. I think they just feel more gang related. In fact, do you know what I want to do? I want to create. It's crazy it might sound in a big. I know not a lot of people would probably think this is a good idea, but I want to create. I want to create an ambulance out of a Taurox. I think that would just look quite cool. Yeah, I think I always wanted to make a Chimera ambulance, but I think that is it. I always say it wrong. I'm sure of it. It's the Taurox. It's the tracked vehicle. I'd love to do one of them up as an ambulance. Of course, an armed ambulance, because you're unlikely to go out into the field in 40k even with an ambulance without proper equipment on it. Right. Okay, so here we go with this one. Let's get this glued up. Oh gosh, that wasn't good. Go. Let's tidy up this side now quickly. It'll be quite interesting to see how this is going to look in the pastel blue colour. It may seem that pastel blue is just not going to work for a tank, but that it was shadow blue. If you ever look up shadow blue, the colour for my Armoured Company, it's actually quite a vibrant blue colour. Now, so the closest I've managed to get close with things like dry brushing Fenris white or Space Wolf grey or something like that. Fenris grey, I think. You know, I've got something close to, but it just doesn't match what I want. So I'm going to try pastel blue and work and try dark over a grey, which then should create a darker, slightly darker pastel blue and give me the colour that I want for my Necromundan 11th. Okay, so yeah. Don't want to put too much glue down there. I just think it causes too many problems later on. There we go. Hey. Now, I've already cut out 17 before by accident. So this one's going to head onto the top of this. A bit of space. See, dirt. So much dirt gets built up when you're doing these models. Okay, 28. Let's get over to the tracks again. I want to pick up the pace actually on these tracks. Get them cleaned up quick. 38. Yeah, I'll do a separate video on how I set up tracks for painting, and then this can complement this video. I think tracks are one of those places that a lot of us get very lazy about when we're painting. Like thinking, oh well, throw some black on there and then dry brush it with silver or similar. You know, it's an easy technique, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing you for doing it. But, you know, I was on Heavier Metal, and I'll have to get the guy's name, but someone created this Rogal Dorn. They called it Rudy. That's what the name was played. And it was gorgeous. And one of the key things was the effort they'd made just on part of the tracks and making sure that they looked real, you know, realistic, but also kind of digging up dirt and running it on. So they looked great. I really liked the way it looked. It was a fantastic piece. Look it up. Go on a Facebook group called Heavier Metal. Lovely supportive group. And look for a Rogal Dorn that someone did. You'll know it. They put loads of pictures on it. It's Acadian green, but yeah, sure, its name was Rudy, and it looked great. 23, and you know, it's simple things. Although they've made a lot of effort across the whole thing, it's that making sure that the tracks just aren't, you know, sploshed on and neglected. You know, they've got the effect of mud on there. Again, you know, even just, and again, a light dry brush of a muddy brown on your tracks can make a hell of a lot of difference. And even on where the tracks kind of go inside, it makes a big difference. Okay, let's see here. So 23 pops downwards here. There we go. Right, and then 36. This front side 36. Okay, got to find a 37 for around the back. This one here. Okay, now some of the smaller parts now, so 29 is over here, and then we're heading towards the number 9s. And okay, you know what, doesn't look like there's going to be any spare track parts. Now, I love a spare track. Here's the number 9s now. Get them all out. Yeah, I'm just going to do a quick check, but I don't think there's any spare tracks. I like spare tracks. Okay, it's just one of those little things that might seem minor, but when you want to add character into your vehicles, a few little spare parts makes a world of difference, and a spare track can really make the difference between something looking, you know, pristine and straight out the factory compared to being worn out and, you know, in the middle of a battle. So I'm afraid that's a bigger sin to me than the bottom being missing, not having spare tracks. Gosh, I must seem like I'm getting annoyed over something minor, but it just helps you feel like you've got a real living, breathing thing, or in this case, you know, combusting, spewing thing. Okay, there we go. So there's all our tracks actually done. Now, as I said, I am not going to glue these on. I just don't like doing that on tanks. So I'm just going to pause my video, remove them, put them to one side while I carry on with the rest of the build. Alright then, so now we're moving on to starting connecting the two halves together. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need parts 65 and 50. So we've got 65 and 50 right next to each other here. Right then. So this one is going at the front by the look of it. Let's see how it goes on. So it looks like it clicks in there. I like the curve actually to the front of this. Odd thing to sort of have a preference for, but you know, it's a nice little feature. So pop that side in, let's start letting that dry. Then this one is going to go down here. Should be able to find where it kind of clips in quite nicely. And then what we're going to do, so while that's drying off a bit, start to pop this in. So again, just has clear joint points. Just make sure it's nice and tight in. A lot of this is making sure that you don't end up with little gaps as well. I mean, it's always a risk, I found, with tanks. Now, one thing that I have a habit of doing with tanks, and I'm not going to hide this, I actually frequently put modelling putty around any holes and then make them try and make them look like welding points, where they've tried to, you know, do temporary repairs. It's just a habit I have from a long time ago, basically. I actually still have the book, How to Paint Tanks. So I actually have Games Workshop How to Paint Tanks book. I've also got Forge World's Modelling Masterclass as well. Okay, while that's gluing up, let's get 52 out, which is this one here. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing a few conversions on this as well. I'm going to build it first, then I'm going to start converting it in a different video. I have to admit, this tank is really easy to put together so far. I'm not really having any major setbacks. So let's hope that that carries on. Okay, now we've got the rear. Looks like the engine bay and might be a door. We'll see when we get round to it. Part 49. I like it. I'm looking at different parts of it, and I'm seeing I'm seeing the Bane blade, I'm seeing the Leman Russ, so I'm seeing like everything that makes it an Astra Militarum tank, but it still isn't just like, it's still unique, it's still its own model, which I like. There's a risk when they're doing things like this that they just make a big version of the small one or a small version of the big one. So I think this is, I think I like the way that it looks. quite nice looking. And it's got its own personality as far as I'm looking at some of the details now. While still, you know, maintaining the ethos of, you know, the Imperial Guard Astra Militarum tanks. Okay. Let's pop this one on here now. Someone walked in then. I was trying to pause the video quickly. Okay, just make sure that the curve is at the top on that one. Okay, now it looks like we're heading to the front of this now. So, looks like we're heading over to the sprue that we haven't touched yet, over here. So, 131 this part, let's check that. Yeah, 131. I've got to cut this just the right place because there's lots of little details that I might snap if I'm not careful. Like, look at this one. So, I'm going to cut it from there and then I'll fix the cut so that it's nice and neat later. So just watch out cutting this off because you could easily take a chunk out of a detail. See this one here, you see. So after I've cut it off, I'm then going to cut the part there, yeah. Interesting. I'm having a look here. There's like this little bit. I can't work out if that is deliberate battle damage or a fault with the mold. I think I got a fault with the mold here. You know what? There. Now, I'm not going to worry about that. If it is a fault with the mold, I'm going to keep it as battle damage anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. It feels like it kind of bobbles out there. Now, I can't really tell from the box if that it should be like that. And I don't think I made a mistake cutting it off. Either way, it's battle damage now. That's how I'll deal with that. If it is supposed to be battle damage, then I'll keep it, obviously. And if it isn't, then I still want to keep it. Because it's, you know, going to look like something got knocked. Definitely looks like battle damage. It's just I don't believe it's supposed to be. So just got to make it look. I'll leave it at that. There we go. Accept it. You know, sometimes if you do ever have a problem, so say you're making one of these and you accidentally scratch it somewhere that you shouldn't do, damage it somewhere that you shouldn't do. It's simple. That's battle damage. And just accept it. Don't worry. Just accept it and move on. Right. And you know, just make sure when you're painting it, make it look like it's battle damage. Oh gosh, this does not like going in and out. Okay. That is a big gap though, isn't it? Okay, 129. Should be this big chunking piece here. And this is another little bit where don't try and force it out, just tidy it up once it's out if you're having trouble. Now you can see here where, you know, wasn't easy to cut off the sprue, so I'm just going to fix those little bits off on the edges. There we go. Up now. Do a dry fit on this. Oh, there we go. It's a nice fit, that actually. It's quite cool. Now get the glue in the right places here. Again, if they do end up with any like little gaps, just don't worry about filling them later on. Said it's just the way I've always done it. I've always, when I've had gaps in a tank, I have just quite happily used green stuff. Now, one thing I am finding that this side here is not laying properly, so I'm just going to use a bit of extra glue, get it to breathe. And you can see this part's just kind of popping out more than I want it to, so I'm going to push it. Right, so there's our main body done. Obviously the next parts are going to start adding fine details, so as I go through I'm going to have to decide which parts I'm putting on completely and which parts I'm leaving off to make painting easier.